Hey guys, tonight we journey into a world you think you know, but trust me, you don't. Forget the romanticized Middle Ages of brocade gowns, candlelit castles, and chivalrous knights on horseback. Tonight, we're going somewhere a little darker, a little smellier, a lot itchier. We're stepping behind the curtains of history, not the velvet ones, but the ones made of stained linen and deeply questionable decisions. Tonight, we explore the unwashed, misunderstood, and tragically underdocumented world of medieval sex workers. Not the myth, not the glamour, just the grime, the gossip, and the very real horrors of hygiene before the word hygiene had even been invented. This isn't going to be an easy ride, but that's why you're here, right? Now, before we descend into the medieval underworld of perfumed lies and pox-ridden reality, take a moment to gently like this video and subscribe only if you truly enjoy this kind of deep, immersive storytelling. And in the comments, I'd love to know, what time is it where you are right now? Midnight? 3 a.m. Are you listening to this while soaking in a tub? Or maybe in bed, clutching your duvet and wondering how bad things can get? Well, you'll find out. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum in the background. Let the modern world fade away. The emails can wait. The group chats can be ignored. And let's slip together into tonight's story. Tonight's journey. How disgusting hygiene habits of medieval prostitute. This isn't about moral judgment. This is about survival. In an era without antibiotics, shampoo, soap, or safe housing, what did it actually mean to sell your body in the 14th century? What did it smell like? What infections were hiding in plain sight? How often did anyone, if ever, bathe? And what passed for cleanliness in a time when most people thought bathing might actually kill you? We're not here to mock or moralize. We're here to witness, to step into their shoes likely barefoot, possibly oozing, and understand what it meant to exist on the edge of society, both desired and despised, all while trying to scrape together enough coins to survive another plague-ridden winter. So, rest your head. Take a breath, let your imagination carry you backward. The candle is flickering, the street outside is wet with filth and shouting, and you, dear listener, are about to wake up in the cramped, unventilated quarters of a medieval brothel. It's dark, it's damp, and the mattress under you has seen things. You wake up to the sound of coughing, wet, phlegmy, unending coughing. Someone else groans. Something drips, probably water from the leaking roof. Possibly not. Your eyes flick open, but it hardly matters. The room is so dim and close that day and night blur into the same pale, greasy shadow. You're lying on a straw mattress. Not a soft one. It's flattened with age and soaked in the kind of moisture that never truly dries. It smells like mildew, like unwashed flesh, like sweat, and something faintly metallic beneath it, blood. Maybe yours, maybe someone else's. The room is small, cramped, claustrophobic. You can't tell where the bed ends and the filth begins. There are 2 other bodies sharing the space with you women, prostitutes, like you now. One snores, the sound like sandpaper dragged across a wet cloth. The other is curled up, wrapped in a rough wool cloak, her breath shallow, her skin pale, even in the darkness. The blanket covering you is coarse and damp, more burlap than comfort. It scratches your legs, which are already itchy. The fleas woke up before you did. You feel them jumping, feeding, moving through your hair and across your thighs like they paid rent. There's no window, just a hole in the wall covered with oiled parchment to keep out the cold. It doesn't work. The wind still creeps in, and with it, the smell of the street outside, rotting vegetables, stale urine, horse dung, and somewhere deeper in the mix, the scent of unburied bodies. Someone must have died last night. Again, you try to sit up and immediately regret it. Your lower back aches. Your legs feel bruised. Your head pulses. Not from drink, though you might have had something cloudy and cheap from the tavern downstairs, but from the sheer exhaustion of the night before. 2 men, one drunk, one sober, one rough, one silent, neither kind. You reach for a basin of water by the side of the bed. It's cold, murky, already used by someone else. You dip your fingers in and splash your face anyway, because that's what passes for a morning wash. The walls are thin. You hear the madam shouting from below, her voice sharp and nasal, slicing through the moans of someone still working. It's barely dawn, but work never stops here. The rooms are shared. Beds are shared. Everything is shared. Clothes, combs, diseases. There's no such thing as privacy. No door, just a curtain if you're lucky. More often, it's a ragged bit of cloth tied across the frame. The smell in the room is unbearable now that you're fully awake. Sweat, filth, and a kind of sourness that clings to your nose and won't let go. It's not your fault. No one has bathed in weeks. There's no bathhouse nearby, and if there were, you couldn't afford the fee or the judgment. Your hair is a mess of knots, lice, and dried fluids. You run your fingers through it, half-heartedly trying to separate the strands. A wooden comb sits on the floor, its teeth broken, its surface greasy. You don't touch it. It's someone else's misery. The chamber pot in the corner is full. No one's emptied it since yesterday. The smell rises like a punishment. You'll have to carry it out to the alley soon, hoping not to spill it on your legs. Last week, someone slipped while doing it and broke her ankle. She hasn't worked since. She might not survive the winter. You stand, legs trembling, and wrap yourself in your shift. It's the only garment you have left. Everything else was either stolen, pawned, or taken by a customer who didn't feel like paying. It's thin, stained, and stiff, in places you don't want to think about. You look around the room. A single candle stub burns low on a wooden crate that passes for a table. Its flame flickers as someone walks past the door. The floor is dirt, uneven, and damp. You step carefully. There are rats. You've seen them. You've heard them in the night, chewing through the straw mattress, scratching at the walls. Your feet are bare, no boots, just cold, cracked soles pressing against the earth. You shuffle toward the curtain, stepping over a pile of rags. You're not sure if it's laundry or someone sleeping. Either way, it moves when you nudge it. Outside your room, the hallway is just a narrow, crooked space between other doors and stairs that creak with every step. The whole building leans slightly to one side, as if it's tired of standing upright. The brothel is old, sagging, and held together by prayer and mould. Downstairs, the tavern is already alive. Men drinking, some from the night before, some starting early. They leer when you appear, even like this, half-dressed, half-dead. One slaps your behind, another calls you sweetheart. Though his breath smells like spoiled fish and tooth rot, you force a smile. You always do. The madam waves you over. She smells of lavender water, trying to cover something worse. Her eyes are sharp. She reminds you of a butcher. Wash your face. New customer coming in. Nobility, maybe, she says. As if that means anything. Nobility just means cleaner boots, not cleaner hands. You go back upstairs to splash more water on your face. You smear a bit of lard into your hair to make it shine. That's what passes for glamour here, pig fat and wishful thinking. You chew a mint leaf if one is available. If not, you rinse your mouth with vinegar, hoping to kill the worst of the stench. But you still taste last night's ale, still feel last night's shame. You're not proud, you're not safe, but you're alive. For now, outside, the church bell rings. You cross yourself, not out of faith, but habit. You wonder if God is listening. Another day has begun. You're hungry. Of course you are. You've been working through the night with barely enough time to breathe, let alone eat. But in this place, food isn't a guarantee, it's a negotiation. And if you don't bring in coin, you don't get breakfast. Simple as that. Still, you head downstairs. The tavern is where the brothel's food is served. It's not a separate kitchen. It's not even clean. It's the same room where the night's drinking and shouting happen. The floor is still sticky from ale and worse. The benches are slick with grease, and the fire has long since gone out. The hearth is cold. So is the food. You find your way to the corner where the serving girl, barely 12, and already coughing blood, is ladling something into wooden bowls. You hope it's porridge. It isn't. It's more like a gruel made from boiled oats, cabbage water, and meat drippings that no one really asked questions about. It smells faintly of smoke, heavily of onions, and strongly of regret. No utensils. You sip it straight from the bowl like everyone else. It burns your tongue, then tastes like nothing at all. Bland, thin, gritty. At least it's warm. Someone next to you sneezes into their food and keeps eating. This is how you start the day. On rare occasions, if a wealthier client visited the night before and left a good tip, you might be able to beg for something better, a heel of bread, some leftover stew, or even a boiled egg if the tavern keeper's hen was feeling generous. But today, you weren't so lucky. Today, you sip the broth, wipe your mouth with your sleeve, and get ready to face what passes for hygiene in your world. There is no bath. Let's get that straight. The idea of immersing yourself in warm, clean water, rubbing soap into your skin, rinsing off the night that's a fantasy, a luxury for nobles, not for women like you. Here, in this brothel, cleaning yourself means walking behind the building to a water barrel, dipping a rag into the icy, dirty rainwater, and wiping down the parts of yourself most likely to offend the next customer. You go behind the building now, clutching a rag that smells faintly of mildew. The water in the barrel is cold enough to make your fingers ache. It's cloudy, used by others before you, contaminated by leaves, dirt, and probably rats. But it's all you've got. You dip the rag, squeeze it out, then start wiping. Your face first, then your underarms, then between your legs, wincing from the rawness of too much friction, too little rest, too many hands. There's no soap, not real soap. Anyway, sometimes the madam boils animal fat and ashes to make something like lye soap, but it's harsh. It burns. It leaves your skin dry and cracked, and most of the time it's reserved for washing linens or scrubbing out the bloodstains from the bedclothes. For your body, you use vinegar if you can steal some, or rosewater if a rich man leaves it behind. But most days, you just wipe and hope for the best. Your hair is another matter. You haven't washed it properly in weeks. There's no hot water, no comb that isn't shared, and no privacy. You rub your scalp with a handful of old rosemary or dried mint to cover the smell. Some girls use ashes. Others use perfumed oil if they can find it. You today settle for wetting your hands and smoothing the strands down, hoping to hide the lice. And there are lice. Always. In your hair, in your clothes, on the mattress. No matter how much you pick, how often you scratch, they come back. They live in the seams of your shift, in the straw of your bed, in the folds of your skin. You scratch your shoulder, then your side, then the back of your neck. You don't even notice anymore. Some of the older girls have boils, scabs, rashes in places they no longer speak of. They try to cover them with herbs, mugwort, comfrey, ground sage, but it rarely works. You've seen one with open sores between her legs. She still works. What choice does she have? You finish your wipe down, toss the rag back over the edge of the barrel and shake your hands dry. There's no towel, You rub your hands on your shift and go back inside. Now comes the part that feels the worst. Your mouth. You try not to think about it, but you have to. Breath matters. Even in this world, especially in this world, no one wants to kiss a mouth that smells like rot. And even though most men don't care, they're not here for romance. You still try to pretend you're more than a set of holes. There are no toothbrushes, no toothpaste, no floss. You chew a twig ashwood or birch, if you can get one, and rub it across your teeth until your gums bleed. If there's wine or vinegar, you rinse. If not, you spit and hope the taste leaves. Sometimes you scrape your tongue with a spoon. Sometimes you rinse with ale if it's cheap and the tavern has leftovers. But mostly, you just hope you don't gag when a man presses his lips to yours and smells last night's sweat in your breath. Your teeth hurt. One of your molars is rotting. You feel it, swollen and sharp. It aches when you chew. You know it'll have to come out soon. You saw the blacksmith pull one last week from another girl with iron pliers. She fainted. There was no warning, no anesthetic, just a scream, a crunch, and then a wad of linen to stop the bleeding. You dread it. So, for now, you chew soft bread, drink thin ale, and smile as best you can through the pain. There's a mirror nailed to the wall above the stairs, a sliver of polished metal, warped and dull. You catch your reflection in it as you walk by. Your eyes are tired. Your skin is sallow. There's a bruise on your collarbone and a scratch across your lip. You lift your chin, try to make yourself look alluring, but all you see is the truth. Not a temptress, not a courtesan, just a tired girl in a dirty shift, hoping the next man won't be too rough, won't leave another mark, won't bring something worse. Syphilis is in the brothel. You've seen the signs, the sores, the madness. One of the girls went blind. Another started screaming in her sleep, saying demons were in her blood. The madam says it's hysteria. The priest says it's punishment. The apothecary says it's just the French disease, as if giving it a name makes it easier to carry. You don't know if you have it. Not yet. But maybe soon. You light a candle in the shrine by the stairs. Saint Mary. Or maybe it's Margaret. The face is worn down. You pray not for salvation, not even for forgiveness, just for warmth. A bath, a clean blanket, one night of sleep without interruption. Then you go back upstairs. Another customer waits. And so the day begins again. You're standing in the corner of your shared room, holding up a shift that might once have been white. Now it's more of a greyish brown, mottled with stains you stopped trying to identify weeks ago. The fabric is coarse, woven from cheap wool or linen, threadbare in some places, crusted stiff in others. This is your wardrobe, not just your work attire, but your everything. You sleep in it. You serve drinks in it. You get undressed and redressed in it until the seams begin to rot. There's no closet, no chest of drawers, no collection of outfits for different moods or customers. You have what you have, and what you have barely counts as clothing. You pull it over your head. It scratches your skin. There's a patch at the neckline where the stitching's coming undone. A tear near the hem from when you caught it on a broken stool leg. There's a faint blood stain on the side that won't wash out. And the sweat has soaked so deeply into the underarms that even the flies stay interested. Some of the other women have dresses, real ones, faded reds, sun-bleached greens, dyed with madder or woad, if they were lucky enough to steal or seduce someone generous. But even then, the colour's mostly gone now. The dyes fade fast under sun, sweat, and repeat laundering in freezing water. No one stays glamorous long in this place. If you're trying to stand out for customers, you might tie a sash around your waist, or pin your shift up slightly to reveal just a little more leg bare, unwashed leg. that hasn't seen stockings in weeks. Stockings are luxuries. They tear easily and cost too much to replace. You're barefoot again. Your shoes, if you had them, fell apart long ago. You patched them until they could no longer be called shoes. Now, your feet are thick with calluses, stained with dirt, and stiff from the cold. In winter, it's worse. When the frost seeps through the thin walls and the straw underfoot turns stiff with ice, you layer everything you own. 2 shifts, if you're lucky. A worn-out cloak made of wool so coarse it feels like sandpaper. You wrap your head in a shawl, not for modesty, no one in your profession is afforded that, but to keep the cold from settling in your skull. There's no fire in your room, only the hope that your body heat and that of the woman sleeping next to you might keep the frostbite at bay. And then there's the smell. Your clothes carry it. The smell of the brothel, the mix of sweat, ale, smoke, urine, and something sour underneath it. All yeast infections, rotting teeth, a bit of blood on every sleeve. You try to air them out sometimes, hanging them by the window hole or waving them near the door. It doesn't help. The smell isn't on the fabric. It's in it. You hear someone downstairs calling for you. You grab your apron, it's just a square of ragged cloth, and tie it around your waist. It's more for show than function. You don't bake, you don't sweep, but it gives the illusion of civility. The building itself isn't much better than the clothes you wear. This brothel, like most, isn't some elegant medieval fantasy of silk pillows and carved bedposts. It's a crooked, collapsing structure in the back streets of town. The walls are made of timber and wattle, patched with mud, stuffed with straw to keep out the wind. But it doesn't work. The wind still howls through the cracks at night, whistling a song of mildew and despair. The floor is dirt, just packed earth, scattered with rushes that are never changed often enough. They rot underfoot, soaked with ale, spittle, blood, and chamber pot overflows. Your feet stick to them when the weather turns warm. In winter, they freeze to the floor. There's no carpet. That would be madness. Anything soft or decorative here would be stolen before the week was out. The windows are small, shuttered with wood that never quite closes right. There's no glass, just thin sheets of horn or parchment, stiff and yellowed with age. They let in a watery light and plenty of cold. You hang rags over them for privacy. Not that it matters. Most of the men who visit don't care who's watching. Sometimes that's the point. The roof leaks. When it rains, you huddle in the driest corner and pray the straw above your head doesn't collapse completely. Sometimes it does. One girl had it fall right onto her bed during a storm. Mouldy thatch, soggy with bird droppings and slime, landed on her face while she slept. She laughed about it the next day. The kind of laughter that sounds dangerously close to tears. You think of warmth. You think of noble women, wrapped in furs, sitting by fireplaces that are tended constantly by silent, invisible servants. You've glimpsed them once or twice, riding past in carriages, perfumed, clean, wearing gowns that shine in the sunlight. You imagine what it's like to own more than one shift, to own something that doesn't itch, to wear shoes that don't fall apart when they get wet. But then a rat runs across the floor, and the fantasy breaks. Back to reality. There's no wardrobe, no laundry, no closet of enticing silks for the next customer. Just you, in a dress that doesn't fit right anymore, with frayed cuffs and a neckline that's been stretched by too many hands. Your skin chafes beneath the fabric. Your thighs are sore from friction. And when you sit down, you can feel the straw inside your mattress poking through to your hip bone. The walls are so thin you can hear the conversation next door. A man groaning. A woman pretending to laugh. The familiar thump of a body on straw. The creak of the floorboards. You look at the ceiling and wonder if today's the day it falls through. You saw the crack in the beam yesterday. No one fixed it. Why would they? This place isn't meant to last. You sit on the edge of the bed, bare wooden frame, no headboard, no comfort, and stretch your back until the bones pop. It's cold again. Always cold. You pull a second cloak around your shoulders, stolen from a traveler who left it behind months ago. The lining is torn. It smells like mold, but it's warm, or at least warmer than nothing. There are no decorations in your room. No mirror, save for a piece of dull metal you found in the alley. No paintings, no tapestries. Just a nail in the wall where someone once hung a rosary or a dried flower or maybe a note from a lover. It's empty now. The building groans around you. The wood is tired. So are you. But you stand. Anyway, adjust your apron. Pull your hair back with a ribbon that used to be red. You smooth down your shift, check your sleeves, and take one last breath before heading downstairs. Because no matter what you wear, no matter how you live, you still have to play the part. A smile here, a wink there, a flash of ankle, a toss of hair, a whispered promise of affection you don't feel. You wrap yourself in fabric, but it's not clothing, it's armor, and you pray it holds. You'd think the work begins when the sun sets. That's what people imagine when the candles are lit, the men come staggering in, and the upstairs fills with the sounds no one wants to talk about in daylight. But the truth is, your labor starts much earlier, and it doesn't end. Not ever. From the moment you rise, sore and sticky, you are working. Not just for coin, but for the right to stay in the brothel, to keep your straw bed, to eat the watery stew. The madam doesn't care if you're tired, or ill, or bleeding. You earn your keep, or someone else takes your place. Your first task today is cleaning. Not your room, no one bothers with that anymore, but the shared areas. The stairs, still wet with ale and spit. The hallway, where someone pissed in the corner again. You take a rag already used and wipe down the railing, careful not to get splinters. The wood is old and cracked. Everything here is old and cracked. Even you, in a way. If the tavern is short on help, you serve drinks. Sloshing mugs of thick, sour ale to men whose hands linger too long. Some of them recognize you, smile with yellow teeth, remind you of nights you've tried to forget. You pretend not to know them, pretend you're someone else. The mugs are greasy. The floors are worse. You slip once on something sticky, maybe beer, maybe not, and twist your ankle. No one notices. No one helps. You limp to the back and keep going. There's no time to rest. No such thing as sick leave. If you can stand, you can work. If you can't stand, you'd better lie down and spread your legs. Some girls work the market stalls by day, selling turnips, old loaves, wilted herbs, not for themselves, for the madam. She takes their coin and calls it rent. You watch them return each evening, their hands raw, their eyes dull. They clean up just enough to pass for desirable. Then they work again. If you're unlucky, and let's be honest, you usually are, you get sent on errands. Across muddy streets, past shouting vendors and clattering carts, to fetch more wine, or thread, or dried meat. You carry a wooden pail through town, every step watched by someone who thinks they know who you are. Some leer, some spit. A priest once threw holy water on you. You flinched, but you didn't stop walking. Back at the brothel, one of the girls is crying. She's new, pretty, not used to the bruises yet. She says the man bit her, wouldn't pay. The madam tells her to clean herself up and get ready for the next one. There's no punishment for the man. He's a regular. Pays well when he pays. You ask if she wants help. She shakes her head. Her lip is split. Her hands shake. You've seen this before. You'll see it again. Midday now. The fire is lit in the hearth, but it gives off more smoke than heat. You gather herbs from the jar behind the stairs, rosemary, thyme, and something else that smells like rot. You chew them before each client, not for pleasure, for protection. Some say it helps ward off disease. Others say it keeps the womb cool, whatever that means. You don't believe in much anymore, but you chew them anyway. You go upstairs. The sheets haven't been changed. They never are. You pick out the bits of straw, pat down the worst of the bloodstains, and pretend the lump in the mattress isn't a dead mouse. The man comes in, middle-aged, merchant, drunk already. He doesn't want to talk. Afterward, you lie still as he buttons his cloak. He farts, laughs, tosses you a coin. It rolls under the bed. You have to crawl to get it. You wash with cold water from a chipped basin. There's no towel, just your shift. You dry yourself with the inside of the fabric, trying to avoid the part that still smells like last night. Your thighs sting. You try not to scratch. You'll only make it worse. It's barely afternoon. Sometimes the brothel gets quiet during the day. That's when the madam has you do needlework, patching torn dresses, restitching seams. You prick your fingers constantly. The needle is dull. The thread breaks. But you work until the blood from your fingers becomes part of the hem. You used to like sewing. Now it's just another chore that hurts. You remember being a girl, watching your mother mend clothes by the fire. She smelled like bread and ash and something sweet. You don't smell like that anymore. Another client. This one smells like fish. He's gentle but clumsy. Apologizes the whole time. Says he wishes he could take you away. You nod. Smile. Tell him he's kind. He's not. You fake an orgasm. He doesn't notice. He leaves without finishing. You still get paid. Not all your work is physical. Some of it is emotional. The pretending, the smiling, the making men feel like they matter. You become an actress, a priest, a therapist. You nod through their stories, laugh at their jokes, hold them when they cry, tell them they're strong. Then they leave, and you sit in silence, wondering when you became so good at lying. You eat again, more broth, still watery, still tasteless. Your teeth ache with every bite. The madam brings a new girl, 14, frightened. You see the way the men look at her. You remember when they looked at you like that. You envy her. You pity her. You want to warn her, but you don't. No one warned you. Evening comes. The candles are lit. The music starts a lute in the corner, badly tuned. The tavern fills with shouting. The girls put on their best faces, their reddest lips. You smear ash on your cheeks for colour. Your dress slips down one shoulder. You look in the metal shard mirror and whisper to yourself, just one more night. Your legs are tired. Your back is sore. Your mind drifts. You think of other work, washing clothes, serving tables, begging, but this work pays. Sort of. You work, and when you're done working, you sleep. And when you wake up, you work again. Because this isn't just a job, it's survival. You might think that someone like you, someone who lies with men for coin, someone whispered about behind hands and prayed against from pulpits, would have no place for religion. But here, in the filth of the brothel, faith lingers like smoke, thick, inescapable, and often suffocating. You wake every day with the fear of death, but you also wake with the fear of damnation. The church says you are a sinner, not just in passing, but by profession. Your work is a mortal offense. Every moan, every gasp, every whispered promise of love made under your breath for the sake of a copper coin, it all goes into the tally against your soul. And yet, you still cross yourself when you pass the church. You still light candles at the crumbling shrine nailed crookedly to the brothel wall. You still whisper prayers not for salvation, not anymore, but for protection, for mercy, for fewer boils, for a night without bleeding. There's a crucifix hanging on the stairwell. No one remembers who put it there. Maybe a madam long since dead. Maybe a girl who hoped it would cleanse the place just enough to let her sleep without nightmares. The face of Christ is worn smooth by dozens of fingers brushing against it in the dark. You touch it too sometimes, out of habit, not hope. A priest once visited, not to confess anyone, not to offer comfort, but to stand in the tavern and shout. His voice boomed like thunder. "Women like you are Jezebels," he said. "You bring pestilence and judgment to our city. You invite the wrath of God with every filthy act you perform." You smiled at him, not kindly. Then he came back the next week, after dark, paid double. The hypocrisy is exhausting. Still, the church's shadow is everywhere. You were taught from childhood that Eve sinned first, that women are weak, tempted, the root of lust and ruin. It's no surprise, really, that when things go wrong, when a child is born ill, when a man dies in his sleep, when the milk curdles too soon, people look at you and whisper, "Whore, witch, sinner." Superstition runs alongside religion like twin snakes, hissing contradictory truths into your ears. You sleep with an iron nail under your bed to keep away demons. You hang rosemary above the door, not for scent, but to ward off spirits. One of the older women leaves bowls of salt on the windowsill. When you ask her why, she says, "To keep death out." You believe her. Everyone here does. There's a midwife who visits sometimes. She's old, bent, her face carved with 100 suspicious wrinkles. She smells like garlic and burnt herbs. Some say she's a healer. Some say she's a witch. You don't care, as long as she brings relief. She knows charms to ease the pain when the men are rough. She burns juniper to clear the air when illness comes. She sells potions that make your monthlies return if they stop, and they do stop, sometimes. And that's terrifying. No one wants to bring a child into this place. You've seen what happens when someone does. The madam makes them leave. Or worse, so the midwife brings bitter herbs, pennyroyal, rue, mugwort. You brew them in secret, drink them hot and fast, and pray that they work. The cramps that follow are vicious, but they are better than the alternative. You wear charms too, a bone carved with a cross, a strip of red ribbon tied around your ankle, a scrap of parchment tucked into your shift with the name of a saint written in shaky Latin. You don't remember which saint, you just know it belonged to another girl. She gave it to you before she died. You still sleep with it. Death is always nearby here, and with it, fear. You fear hell, of course. Everyone does. But hell is far away. Hunger is close. Sores are close. Syphilis is very, very close. So you hold on to any protection you can find, holy or otherwise. The church doesn't offer much help. If you go to confession, the priest makes you kneel longer than the others. He asks pointed questions, makes you repeat your sins out loud. He tells you you must leave your life behind if you want to be forgiven. But how do you leave a life when it's the only thing keeping you alive? Some towns offer Magdalene houses, places where women like you can go to be reformed, to work off your sins with laundry and prayer. But those places are worse than brothels. Cold, strict, punishing. You've heard stories of girls whipped for speaking out of turn, locked in cells for days without food, no visitors, no wages. Just endless penance and shame. It's not redemption. It's a different kind of prison. You light your own candles instead. Street Mary Magdalene is your patron now, not the Virgin Mary. Magdalene was a whore once, they say. Then she was forgiven. You hope that's true. You hope there's a path out, even if you never find it. Sometimes the girls share stories late at night, lying on their mattresses like survivors clinging to driftwood. One tells of a nun she knew who ran away from the convent and ended up here. Another swears she once saw an angel in the street, looking like a beggar. Another believes she's already damned and laughs like it's a joke. You don't laugh. You pray, not loudly, not often, but you pray. Let me live through the winter. Let me not get the sores. Let me find one man who isn't cruel. Let me sleep without dreaming. You've tried to stop. The praying, the crossing yourself, the tiny desperate gestures toward a God you're told hates you. But they sneak back in. Little rituals, superstitions, habits burned so deep into your flesh, they've become part of your bones. A black cat walked past the brothel last week. Someone spat. Another girl threw salt over her shoulder. That same night, a customer beat a girl so badly she couldn't walk for 2 days. The madam said the cat was to blame. You believed her, not because it's true, but because the truth is worse. The truth is that no one protects women like you. Not saints, not law, not even God. So you light candles, wear charms, burn herbs, whisper prayers, because sometimes superstition is the only magic you have left. Evening comes slowly in the brothel, like a drunk man leaning on a doorframe, loud, clumsy, and absolutely inevitable. The air grows heavier as the sun sinks. You'd think that the stink of the place would ease as night falls, but no, it thickens. Heat rises from the floors, sweat from the bodies, smoke from the kitchen below. The rushes on the floor grow damp again with spilled ale and human filth. It's time for supper. You're not excited. The main meal of the day isn't a celebration, it's a compromise. You're handed a wooden bowl cracked, with something crusted on the edge, and a spoon that's been chewed on by more mouths than you'd care to count. The food inside? Lukewarm pottage. Again, always pottage. A slurry of barley or oats, thickened with cabbage, flavoured with maybe a bit of pork fat, if someone had a good day at market. But usually it's just boiled root vegetables, overcooked until they surrender into mush. Sometimes you find something chewy in the bowl. You tell yourself it's turnip. You don't ask. You don't look closely. On special nights, the madam throws in bones split to get to the marrow. That's a luxury here. Protein isn't common, not in your line of work. Not when most of the coin goes back to her. You're more likely to eat moldy cheese than meat. And even then, it's soft in all the wrong places and smells like regret. Bread comes too, if you can call it that. Hard as tile. Rough. Black with husks and pebbles. Sometimes literally. You've chipped a tooth on it once. You bite slowly now. Worms? Yes, you've found them in your food. Everyone has. You pluck them out and keep going. As you eat, the tavern fills. The customers come in louder now, staggering, swaggering, pretending they're kings in their muddy boots. Some of them carry knives. Some carry secrets. Most carry lice. They bark orders, pound the tables, leer at the girls as if they were cuts of meat, still warm on the spit. You finish your bowl quickly. There's no pleasure in it. Just fuel. Just enough to get you through the next few hours of work. Then comes the drink. Everyone drinks. You have to. Not for fun, there's very little fun left in your body, but to dull the edges of what's to come. Ale is the usual choice. Cheap, thick, and sour. It's made in barrels downstairs, stirred with a wooden paddle that hasn't been cleaned in months. Sometimes it has floating bits in it, leaves, bugs, someone's hair. No one notices, no one cares. You drink because it's safer than the water. At least the ale's been boiled. Some men buy wine, but not the rich red you're picturing. It's watered down, acidic, often cut with herbs to hide the taste of spoilage. You sip it slowly when it's offered. You don't drink too much. Drunkenness is dangerous, especially for a woman like you. Others don't stop. You've seen girls pass out mid-service. Others wake up bleeding. Some don't wake up at all. When the coins are flowing, the tavern becomes louder, more chaotic. A man starts singing a crude ballad about a nun and a blacksmith. Someone joins in on a lute with 2 broken strings. The rhythm is off, but no one notices. They cheer. They throw bones. They call for the girls to dance. You don't want to, but you do. You pull your skirt up, not to be graceful, but to be seen, to remind them you're here, that you're available. You sway, smile, pretend your knees aren't aching and your stomach isn't cramping. Some girls sing too, off-key but bold. One of them has a lovely voice, sweet and sad. She used to sing in church before she was cast out. Now she sings for men who throw coins at her feet and laugh too hard at nothing. Music is supposed to be a joy. Here it's a tool. A man grabs your wrist. You flinch. He laughs, pulls you toward him. You go. He smells like onions and wet leather. His breath is sour. He says he'll pay for an hour. He never does. But you go upstairs with him anyway, because if you say no, the madam will dock your supper tomorrow. Afterwards, you sit in the corner, sipping what's left of your ale. It tastes like copper. Everything tastes like copper now. The other girls come and go. Some flush with coin, some hollow-eyed and limping. They talk, sometimes, tell stories, gossip, a bit of laughter here and there, always with that sharp edge behind it. You laugh too, but it's more a reflex than anything else. You remember when laughing meant something. When the night gets too long, the brothel hosts games, not for fun, but to keep the men from turning violent. Dice, cards, bone-throwing games. You sometimes sit nearby, pretending to be interested, leaning on the table so they can see down your blouse. A smile earns you tips. A wink might earn you dinner. Sometimes there's a festival in town, Feast of the Saints, or Harvest Day. You get dressed up, if that's the right word for it. The madam lets you wear a garland of wilted flowers. You pretend it's fresh. You walk the streets, smiling, offering yourself like a trinket at a stall. The coins come quicker on festival nights. Men are more generous, more drunk, more likely to forget their wives and remember you. There's dancing in the square. You join once, years ago, spun in circles, laughing with other girls. Then a man pulled your arm too hard, mistook your smile for invitation, and left you bleeding in the alley. You don't dance in the square anymore. Back at the brothel, there's one small thing you enjoy: storytelling. Late at night, after the men are gone or too drunk to move, the girls sometimes sit together and tell tales of love imagined or remembered, of ghosts in the brothel halls, of old clients who died of the pox and maybe deserved it, of noblemen who fell in love with whores and whisked them away, of a city across the sea where women are free, of a time, maybe in the future, where no one has to do this work to eat. You know they're lies, but they're beautiful ones. You hold on to them. Because in this place where the meals are grey, the drinks are sour, and the laughter is brittle stories, are the last things that still taste sweet. You wake up in the middle of the night, again, drenched in sweat, not from warmth, the brothel is freezing, but from fever. Your head throbs, your belly twists, and something in your bones aches like it's trying to crawl its way out. You pull the scratchy blanket tighter around your shoulders, but it's no comfort. Across the room, someone is coughing, not a polite little clear-the-throat cough, but the kind of deep, rattling, chest-hollowing hack that echoes off the walls and makes you wonder if it's time to say goodbye. She's been coughing for days. Everyone knows it. Everyone pretends they don't, because if you admit she's dying, you have to admit you might be next. This is how it works here. Illness is the invisible guest in every room. You don't talk about it. You don't name it. You just keep working until you can't. And when you can't, well, the madam knows a few boys who can carry a body out the back alley without drawing too much attention. You try not to think about that. But the truth is, your whole life now is measured in infections. Boils, rashes, sores, blood in your linen, teeth that rot from the inside, lice you can feel crawling but never fully kill. There is no health in this place, only levels of decay. Some days your legs itch so badly you can't stand still. Others, your gums bleed while you chew. One of the girls lost a toe last winter to frostbite. She kept working, limped through it. No one said a word. There is no medicine. Not really. Not the way you'd hope. No doctors will come here. And even if they would, you couldn't pay them. Instead, you have the apothecary, a sour man with yellow fingers and an ever-present sneer, who sells powders from chipped jars and tinctures from cracked glass. Half his remedies are stale wine and tree bark. The other half are worse. He once gave a girl powdered mercury for a rash. She died within a week. But still, you go to him when things get bad, when the sores between your thighs begin to weep, when the pain of urinating brings tears to your eyes, when you can't keep food down. You go and you beg, and you drink whatever he gives you, because anything is better than feeling like this, even if it kills you. You've tried the herbs too. The midwife brings them wrapped in cloth. Mugwort, rue, wormwood, pennyroyal. Some are meant to ease pain, some to start bleeding again if it's gone missing, some to make you sleep so deep you forget where you are and what's been done to you. The herbs help, sometimes. Other times they just make your stomach turn, your head spin, and your dreams worse. You've seen things in your sleep that feel more real than the day. Eyes in the dark, hands you can't push away, a door that never opens. You don't talk about the dreams. None of the girls do. When someone falls seriously ill, there's nothing to be done. The madam tells them to stay in bed. They get no food, no help. If they're lucky, one of you sneaks them a crust of bread or a strip of cloth soaked in vinegar for the fever. If they're unlucky, they disappear. Sometimes you find out later, buried in a pauper's grave behind the city wall. Sometimes you never find out at all. One girl had the pox, the French disease, syphilis. You could see it on her face, sores eating away at her lips, her nose, her mind. She started talking to shadows, smiling at nothing. One night she climbed onto the roof and sang to the moon. The next morning, she was gone. The madam said she ran away. You don't believe her. You've seen other signs too. Girls going blind, hair falling out in clumps, tongues swollen so large they couldn't speak. Men bring these things in, but it's the women who suffer. You try to protect yourself. You wash with vinegar. You chew herbs. You pray. But there's only so much you can do when your body isn't yours. And then there's childbirth, or rather, the fear of it. Most girls here don't want children, can't have them. Not just because it means losing work, but because most don't survive it. No doctor comes when the labor starts. Just the midwife and a basin of water. No pain relief, no clean sheets, no silence. Just screaming, and blood, and whatever God might be listening that day. You've seen women torn apart by it, literally, their bodies unable to bear the weight of it all. Some survive, most don't. And the babies, born sick, small, screaming, then silent. You've helped dig tiny graves behind the brothel. When it's not childbirth, it's fever, or infection, or rats, or hunger, or the cold. The cold kills quietly. Girls go to sleep and never wake up, especially in winter, when the fires die early and the blankets are damp. You huddle together for warmth, lice crawling from skin to skin, and you pray that tomorrow you can still move your fingers. The city stinks of illness too. Outside the brothel, the streets are no better. The gutters run with filth. The air is thick with wood smoke, dung, and the sour rot of unwashed bodies. Every day brings another risk, another cough, another body dumped in the river. There are no hospitals for women like you, just leper houses, where people are sent to rot, or plague pits, dug deep and fast. You saw one being filled once. A cart tipped backward. Bodies slid out. No prayers, no name. You stared too long. The smell clung to you for days. So you stay quiet about your fever. You work through the pain. You lie to the madam. It's nothing, you say. Just tired. You say it until you believe it. Because if you stop working, you stop eating. And if you stop eating, you stop living. Even with all this, the worst part isn't the sickness itself. It's the waiting. Every rash, every cough, every ache behind your eyes. What if it's the beginning of the end? What if this is the time your body fails you? What if you wake up blind or don't wake up at all? The fear is constant. A knot in your belly, a weight on your chest, and no one comes to help. Not the priest, not the healer, not the man who promised to love you and left the next day. You only have the other girls, and they're just as scared as you are. So you sleep light. You keep your herbs close, your knife closer. You cross yourself each night, even though you've forgotten the words. You light a candle, and you wait, because death is always close here, and sometimes mercy is not. You were someone's daughter once, before the brothel, before the sores, before you learned to smile with empty eyes and nod at hands that didn't ask for permission. You were just a girl, wide-eyed, barefoot, chasing chickens or stealing apples or watching the village priest from the edge of the churchyard, wondering what heaven smelled like. Now, you wonder if your own mother would recognize you. Here, in the dim light of the brothel's hallway, wrapped in a shift that's half sweat and half stain, you are not a daughter anymore, not a sister, not a wife, just a woman, surviving in a world that doesn't care. There are other women here, of course, not all of them young, not all of them pretty. Age isn't protection. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. The madam says old meat doesn't sell well, and once you stop bringing in coin, your bed becomes someone else's. So the older girls do other things. They serve drinks, clean wounds, teach the newer girls how to fake an orgasm without making it look like effort. They talk about the old days not fondly, just factually. Back when the pox was worse. Back when the town guard raided us weekly. Back when a duke's son knocked me up and called it charity. They're the only mothers most of us will ever know. Because real motherhood, that's a dangerous, desperate thing in a brothel. Children are rare here not because no one gets pregnant, but because few ever carry to term. The herbs see to that. The beatings take care of the rest. And if by some twist of fate you do bring life into the world, it's only to watch it vanish. You've seen it, a girl, belly swollen, still trying to work until the pain becomes too much. She retreats into her straw bed, screaming through the night as another girl pours cold water over her legs. There's no midwife, no nurse, just a rag between her teeth and a prayer she barely believes in. Sometimes the baby is born silent. Sometimes it cries, then coughs, then stops. If it lives, that's worse. The madam says there's no room for children. They cry, they stink, they ruin the mood. She lets them stay for a week, maybe 2. Then she calls a cousin in the countryside, or the church. You know what that means. Once you watched a girl carry her baby into town in a swaddled bundle. She came back alone. Her eyes didn't look at anything anymore. The other girls wrapped her in blankets, not out of comfort, but to keep her from clawing her own skin off. Some women do try to leave for the child's sake. They go to the almshouses, or to those places the church runs, where they make you work, and pray, and beg for mercy. But most of them end up back here, skinny, silent, and too tired to resist. Because outside these walls, the world is just as cruel, and it pays even less. Children of whores aren't wanted anywhere. Not in towns, not in trades, not in pews. They're marked from birth dirty, damned, born of sin. Even the kindest nursemaid looks at them with pity. And if they grow, if they somehow survive the winter, the fevers, the hunger, they grow up fast. There's no such thing as childhood for the poor. No school, no toys, no lullabies. Just chores, just work, just surviving. A girl of 6 can fetch water. A boy of 8 can sweep the tavern floor. By 10, she might be scrubbing linens stained with blood. By 12, well, the madam starts watching her differently. You've seen it happen. You've seen the moment a child stops being a child. It's like watching a candle snuff out. Some of the girls here were born in brothels, raised in them, passed between buildings and madams like unwanted furniture. They know the rules better than anyone. Don't cry. Don't ask. Smile when they look at you. Don't smile too much. Never say no unless you want to bleed. Their first customer is often someone they knew as a child. You try not to think about that. There are no real families here. No fathers, no husbands. Men come and go. They promise everything: escape, safety, marriage. I'll take you away from this, they say, while tightening their belts and adjusting their boots. You learn not to believe them. Some do leave. A girl falls in love. A man offers a cottage, a new life. You never hear from them again. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Either way, the rest of you stay behind, holding each other a little closer that night, wondering if you're the foolish ones for still being here, or if she was the fool for believing. The only family you have now are the women around you, the ones who hold your hand during a miscarriage, the ones who sneak you bread when you're too sick to rise, the ones who wash your hair when the lice get bad, the ones who braid your hair before a feast day and tell you that you still look beautiful even though you know they're lying. You share your life with them, your food, your grief, your laughter, your shame. And when one of you dies, when the fever wins, or a man is too rough, or someone swallows too much of the wrong herb, you wrap her in linen, light a candle, and whisper her name into the dark. That's all the ceremony you can afford. No priest, no hymns, just a room full of women who loved her as best they could. Sometimes you dream of another life, of being a mother, holding a clean, fat baby in your arms, of warm kitchens and soft blankets, of lullabies and laughter and safety, of a husband who calls you darling and means it. Then you wake up, and the bed is damp, and the street is loud, and the ache in your belly reminds you that even if you had a child, you couldn't keep them, because love is a luxury, and in this life, luxury gets sold by the hour. It's afternoon again, and the sun is cruel today. Not warm, not gentle, just hot and glaring, pressing down through the warped wooden shutters of the brothel like an accusation. It turns the air thick, sticky, full of buzzing flies and tempers gone short. You're sweating through your shift, your thighs are chafed raw, and you haven't had a customer in hours. This should be a blessing, but it's not. Because in this place, no work means no coin, and no coin means no food, no wine, no place to sleep that night if the madam decides you're not worth the straw. So you go out into the street. The brothel's side door opens to a narrow, muddy alley between two timber-framed buildings that lean into each other like tired drunks. You step over a dead rat, avoid a puddle of something that isn't just water, and pull your shawl up over your shoulders. Not for modesty, that was never your concern, but because you know what happens when a woman walks these streets with her arms bare. The market stalls are busy. The butcher is shouting about fresh meat, though the flies suggest otherwise. A fishmonger waves a wriggling eel in the face of a passing boy. Women haggle over cabbage. Children steal apples. You stand near the baker's stall, letting the scent of warm bread wash over you even though you can't afford a crumb. You lean against a post, smile, make eye contact with a man carrying a satchel and a guilty conscience. It's a delicate thing, this act. Too much eye contact, and you're seen as desperate. Too little, and you're invisible. You get a customer, eventually. He's not bad, not good either. Just a man with too much sweat and too few teeth, who takes you behind a crumbling stable and grunts through the act without ever saying a word. Afterward, he tosses you a coin and mutters something about his wife. You don't reply. You're too busy counting to make sure it's not a counterfeit. It is. Back at the brothel, the madam shrugs when you tell her. Should have checked before he finished, she says. Now clean the privy. You do, because arguing gets you nowhere. Because there's no one to report it to. Because the law isn't written for women like you. In the eyes of the city, you are property, a nuisance, a necessary evil. You exist in a legal grey space, tolerated when convenient, punished when seen. You've been fined for loitering, arrested once for indecency, even though you were fully clothed and just sitting on a bench. You've seen men attack girls in alleyways, push them to the ground, take what they want, and walk away whistling. You've seen girls defend themselves, scratch, or bite, or scream, and end up in stocks the next morning, faces swollen from the guards' fists. Justice here doesn't wear a blindfold. She wears a smirk and takes bribes from the wealthiest man in the room. And in court, if it even comes to court, it's always the same story. She led him on. She didn't say no loud enough. She's a whore. What did she expect? You've learned to walk quietly, to keep your head down, to move like smoke, unseen, unfelt, unheard. But sometimes you snap. One day, you catch a boy barely 15 throwing stones at the brothel windows and shouting insult. You shout back, something sharp, something you won't repeat. He throws another stone, hits you in the shoulder. You pick up a rock of your own. That's when the guards come. They don't ask what happened. They just grab you, slam you against the wall, call you names that would curdle milk. One of them laughs as he holds your arms behind your back. The other pats your cheek like he's petting a dog. They let you go, eventually. But not before they remind you. Next time, we won't be so gentle. That night, you cry, quietly, into your pillow, if it can even be called that. The other girls don't say anything. They've all had their turn. You know one who lost 3 teeth after a guard caught her talking to his son. You know another who disappeared after a bishop's brother spent the night and decided he didn't like her attitude. You all have stories, and they're all the same. You try to stay together, to look out for each other. But sometimes even that's dangerous. One girl, Elsbeth, stood up for a friend once, pulled a knife when a customer got rough. She didn't kill him, just left a scratch on his hand. She was gone by morning. No one talks about it. Some days, the real danger isn't men or guards or disease. It's each other. When food is scarce, when winter's too cold, when a wealthy client favors one girl for too long and jealousy sets in. A stolen cloak, a rumor whispered to the madam, a bowl of broth with something extra in it. You're all fighting for scraps in a world that gives nothing freely. And when you live in a cage made of shame, every woman in it becomes your rival. Even if she's the one who braided your hair last night, even if she's the one who held you after your miscarriage, the conflict simmers under the surface. Always. So you learn to navigate it, like a river full of crocodiles. Smile. Compliment. Don't let your eyes linger too long on her bruises or the new necklace she didn't have yesterday. Just survive. That's the word that comes up again and again. Survive. Through the insults, through the beatings, through the hunger and the guards and the lies and the cold, through the slow, silent war that is being a poor woman in a rich man's world. You wear your resilience like armor, but it's heavy. And some days you feel it cracking. You feel it before you see it. The night, It doesn't fall gently in this world. It drops like a curtain soaked in oil, heavy and choking. The sun slips behind the crooked rooftops, and the shadows stretch long across the alleyways. The air thickens. The mood changes, and with it, the fear comes crawling in. The brothel flickers to life as darkness deepens. Candles are lit short, stumpy things stuck into wine bottles or wax slick holders nailed to splintered walls. Their light is weak, their glow unsteady. Every flame feels like a whisper, "Don't look too closely." You know better than to hope for calm. If anything, night is when the real danger begins. Because when the streets go quiet, the worst men come alive. The tavern fills with them, staggering in with red cheeks and dirty boots, looking for ale, a body, and something to hit. Laughter turns sharp. Songs slur into threats. Knives flash just long enough to remind you they're there. You make yourself smaller, quieter, smoother. You smile even when it feels like your teeth might crack from the strain. A man lurches toward you. His breath is pure vinegar. He grabs your wrist. Hard. You don't wince. You lean in, touch his shoulder, and say just loud enough, "Follow me upstairs, love." It's a tactic. You don't want a scene, because once the candles go low, there's no one to protect you. Not the madam. Not the other girls. Not the guards, especially not them. They only come if someone rich is bleeding. And if it's you who's bleeding, well, that's your fault, isn't it? The streets outside are even worse. You don't walk them at night unless you have no choice. The darkness belongs to thieves, cutthroats, drunkards, and things you don't dare name aloud. You've heard stories of girls who tried to sneak home to visit a sister, or run away, or just take a breath of fresh air. They never returned. One was found days later, floating in the river, her mouth filled with straw. Another turned up in the tannery yard, beaten so badly they only recognized her from the patch on her cloak. Most just funish. Even in the brothel, you're not safe. The doors don't lock. The walls are thin. And the man in the next room might decide he's not finished with you, even if you are. Fire is always a risk. Every brothel in the city has burned once. Some twice. A candle knocked over. A curtain catches. A drunk falls asleep with his pipe. You dream of smoke in your lungs, of screaming in the dark, of waking up too late. Sometimes you sleep with one boot on, just in case you have to run. But sleep isn't easy. Your bed is shared. The straw pokes your skin. The blanket is damp. You lie curled, knees to chest, listening to the sounds of the brothel around you. A woman crying softly through the wall. A man shouting, the dull thud of a slap, the soft creak of bedrope, a rat scratching in the corner, and beneath it all, your own heartbeat. Too fast, too loud. You close your eyes and pretend you're in a clean room, with warm sheets and fresh air. Pretend no one will touch you tonight. Pretend tomorrow will be easier. You know it won't. Nightmares come easily. You see faces you thought you'd forgotten. You feel hands on you again. Hear the door creak open. Smell the stink of a man who doesn't care if you cry. You wake up gasping. There's no lamp to turn on. No comfort. Just darkness. And the smell of mold. And the slow realization that yes, you're still here. Still in this life. Still in this body. Still afraid. And death is always waiting. Not the noble kind. Not the peaceful, bed-bound kind. No. Death in your world is ugly, slow, full of pain and regret. It comes in the form of fevers that don't break, of sores that spread, of bleeding you can't stop, of a blow to the head that no one sees, or worse, everyone sees and no one cares. You've seen girls die in silence, too weak to scream, too tired to beg. Sometimes they whisper prayers. Sometimes they just ask for their mother. You don't know which is worse. There's no burial, just a sack, a cart, and a shallow grave. No one records your name. No one carves a stone. The city moves on. Another girl takes your bed before it goes cold. You think about that a lot, about how close you are to the edge. One bad night, one bad man, one bad turn of fate. That's all it takes. So you hide a knife under your mattress. Not for others, for yourself, just in case. Because worse than dying is what might happen before you die. And still you rise. You clean yourself with cold water. You dress in the same worn shift. You paint your face with ashes and rose water. And you go downstairs with a smile that says, "Yes, I'm still here." Because the night might own your fear, but it doesn't own your will. Not yet. Not tonight. You slip into your bed again, pulling the thin blanket over your aching body. A girl beside you is already asleep, her lips moving soundlessly in a dream. Her hand brushes yours, and you remember softly, painfully, that you are not alone, that you are not the only woman trying to survive the dark. You listen for the silence, and slowly you let go. And now, at last, it's quiet. Not perfectly, not completely, but quiet enough. The laughter in the tavern has dulled to murmurs and snoring. The final candle has flickered out, the smoke curling toward the beams above like one last ghost of the day. Someone outside stumbles over a cart and curses into the night air, but you don't lift your head. You've heard worse. In your shared room, the air is thick and warm with breath and unwashed bodies. You've grown used to it like everything else. You lie curled on your side, a threadbare blanket wrapped around your knees, the straw mattress creaking with every shallow breath. Your skin aches, your jaw is tight, your thighs burn. But there's something softer in the stillness. Not peace, exactly, but pause. The world has, for now, stopped asking anything from you. You stare into the dark, eyes half-lidded, and think not of the day just past, but of the day that never came. The one where you didn't end up here, where someone stepped in, where someone said, "You don't have to do this," but that didn't happen. And now, you're someone no one writes poems about, someone no ballads will mourn. Not a princess, not a saint, just a body, a worker, a woman among dozens. And yet, you lived today. That counts for something. In this world, that has to count for something. There's a kind of strength in that. In waking up every morning, knowing what waits for you, and rising anyway. In offering your body like armor, in faking smiles so convincingly you start to believe them. In holding your sister's hands in the dark without saying a word, because you all know, you all feel it. This life, this fight, this terrible, weary dance through days that never quite end and nights that never quite forgive. And still, you move through it. That's not weakness. That's resilience made flesh. Outside, the city sleeps, or pretends to, even in darkness. The rats still run, the drunkards still stumble, the river still carries the filth of the day away into deeper waters. The bells will toll soon. Another morning, another shift, another stranger, but not yet, not now. You let your hand relax beneath your pillow. Feel the scratchy linen, the barest hint of warmth from the girl next to you. Her breath is slow and rhythmic. You match yours to hers. Inhale, exhale. You hear a dog bark, far off. A cartwheel creak, then nothing. There's comfort in that silence. The soft hum of a world not watching, not demanding. A darkness that asks nothing of you but rest. You close your eyes and breathe deep. Your muscles loosen, your jaw unclenches. Your thoughts begin to fray at the edges. All the pain, the labor, the fear, it can wait. Just a little while. Let the day fall away. Let the walls of the brothel dissolve. Let the noise and the names and the shame drift like smoke out the window. Tonight, there are no customers, no stairs to climb, no rooms to clean. Just your body, heavy and worn, wrapped in whatever comfort you can scavenge from stillness. And as your heartbeat slows, you feel something almost like gratitude. Not for this life, never for this, but for the fact that it's ending for now, that you made it, that you get to sleep. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll dream of warm bread and quiet laughter, of clean sheets and a morning without bruises, of a sky without smoke, of a name that no one spits, maybe. And if you don't, that's fine too, because you survived today. And in this world, that's more than most. So tonight, as you drift off, remember, you don't have to wake up in the Middle Ages. Sleep well,